So next up, we have a presentation from OD6 Metals with the ticker code OD6, a company focused on Australian rare earth metals for green technologies. To tell us more, today I'm joined by MD and CEO Brett Hazelden. Hello, Brett.
Hello, thanks for everyone's time.
Let me bring up your presentation.
So first slide there is just a bit of a location slide. So we're located in Western Australia there, just above Esperance. So it gives you a bit of location. So in terms of the tenements we've got two main projects, Splinter Rock project and the Grass Patch project. Both of them are as big as the Australian Capital Territory in size, so massive type of areas. Both prospective for clay-hosted rare earths, and they have been found on these tenements in the past. Of importance there is we're also very close to Esperance, sealed roads, and obviously what we're looking for is rare earths, but in particular neodymium and praseodymium. So what's driving these? There's a big for these. So we're going from virtually 50,000 to 250,000 tonnes over the next 20 years in terms of demand. And that demand's really coming from electric vehicles using about 2 kilograms per vehicle and 400 kilograms per wind turbine as well. So there's big compound annual growth there. In terms of what the guys are forecasting out there, there's a big shortage that's been forecast out over the next 20 years. So massive demand for new mines to come on, which we can see on the next slide. So currently China and Myanmar are the major suppliers of these type of materials into the market, with Lynas really being the only existing one outside in Australia, along with Main Peak in America. So there's probably need for another 10 to 12 new NdPr/rare earth mines to actually meet the future demand going forward. So Australia is well positioned to actually get a whole heap of mines into production. Importantly as well, green obviously is out there in terms of, is it going to be green rare earth potential? There is wind in there in Esperance, there's solar, and we've also got Twiggy out there looking at these Fortescue Future Metals, or Industries I should say, looking to develop a hydrogen facility down there as well. So we do have that future ability there to look as a green rare earth producer. So a little bit on the project itself, Splinter Rock, we're just going to focus on today. So there was historic high-grade intercepts that ran across a 30-kilometre traverse about 10 to 15 years ago. Rare earths haven't been sexy sort of since then, so these areas were dropped. We've picked them up. They were vacant ground, land. We've reviewed all the historic data in the areas. So we've got an area that's sort of 30 kilometres by 60 kilometres with clays and with some historic drilling for rare earths in there as well that have shown good grades. So it's one of the largest known clay target areas that Australia's actually got at the moment. So in terms of that previous slide there, this is the cross section across that 30 kilometres. And you can see on this slide there's various intersections that have hit between 10 to 30 metres in thickness, of up to 1,000 to 2,000 ppm trio. So they're really good grades in terms of clay, rare earths, and you can see there cut-off grades of greater than 300 ppm in red and 750 ppm in purple there. So there's plenty of areas there to target. Those drill holes were 2 to 4 kilometres apart. We've just done a drilling program to infill those drill holes effectively, or infill that line to understand that in more detail, which we can see on the next slide. So the picture on the right, or the figure on the right, shows you the drill program we've just completed in terms of drill holes and also the depths that they went to. Gives you a bit of a proxy for where the clays are, or how deep some of these clays are. And you can also see here in pink, the big pink blobs are the granites, and the smaller pink blobs are the outcropping granites and subgranites in the area as well. So effectively what we're looking at here is a historic granite that's been an iceberg, it's been weathered off, and the clays are what has the weathering. And then we're obviously targeting the clays that then hold the rare earths that have been dissolved over a couple of billion years. So we've just completed the drilling. We're imminent to announce some drill results probably early next week at this stage. So it's a good time to be considering the company from that perspective. We've also been doing some work with CSIRO. So there's some white lines there that you can see, 3 white lines. This is all historic aeromag or electromag works that were done by Australian Geoscience. And so we've had CSIRO reprocess those lines, and you can see there in the middle SAC 217 and the yellow line that refers to. That yellow line is then in the figure, which is in cross section on the bottom right hand corner there. It clearly delineates the granites in green, being obviously what was the original source rocks. And then you can see the clay areas in the orange and the red outlines there. So there's an 8 kilometre zone there that looks to be all clays. There's areas that have very close to near surface, so little bits of blue just on top of it, and areas that have a little bit deeper cover. So what it's been able to identify for us is, going forward, where do we want to target our drill holes based on thickness of the clays, the depth to the clays, and obviously the lower the stripping ratio, the better. And if we're close to the granites, that's probably not a bad thing either. So for us, we're now flying a AEM survey over this area and also grass patch at the moment at 400 metre spacings rather than 20 kilometre spacings that you can see there. And that's going to generate a lot of targets for us, but it's also going to give us a 3D model effectively that will show us the clay thicknesses throughout these areas. Now, it doesn't tell us our grade or recoveries or anything else like that, but it tells us there's clays there and it's close to surface. So in terms of our program, we only listed recently on the ASX, so June this year we listed. There's been a bit of a rush into the Esperance area for these clay rare earths. We're one of about 3 or 4 in there now, and we're seeing that we're all starting to work together on that. So we've just completed our drilling program. The assays are due shortly, as I mentioned. The geophysics and clay mapping is actually occurring as we speak, with the aeromag happening overhead. And then once we've got the assays coming in, we'll be selecting various high-grade areas and also areas that we think we're going to get good metallurgical recoveries on. Put them into ANSTO as the key metallurgical program, so Australian Nuclear Science Organisation. That's been doing a lot of these clay-based and other rare earth programs, both in Australia and around the world. And we'll work on that metallurgical test works and just make sure where the best areas are. Generally, rare earths, you're only getting about 50 to 70% recoveries. My background's metallurgy, so I'm not a geologist. I'm also a project developer, so I'm here to see what the end goal is in terms of actually building something. And we need to make sure that metallurgical test work is probably done as best we can, and is what's going to drive the project. We'll look to put an exploration target out early next year, get into a whole heap of res dev and infill drilling to get a mineral resource estimate probably during next year out, and then scoping study obviously with that as well. And the blue parts are our grass patch project, which we're going to be doing some drilling and clay mapping obviously at the same time. So corporate structure, we're pretty simple. We listed at 20 cents. It's obviously been a bit of a choppy market, but we're back above 20 cents at the moment. 100 million shares on offer, 7 million in the bank as at the end of last quarter. So enterprise value is sitting about 13 million. A lot of the peers in this clay space sort of market caps of $30 to $40 million based on similar stages as us. So I really see a bit of a re-rating happening on some positive drill results coming forward. Directors, founders obviously got skin in the game. I've got skin in the game. So we're here to make this work. So a summary, there has been an explosion in demand on critical rare earths coming from electric vehicles, from wind turbines, also other things like consumer goods like air conditioners. We do have thick, and not just 3 metres, we got up to 30 metres, and I think we'll see even thicker intercepts of clays with good grades in there, near to surface, and it's clay hosted. So we don't have to have the beneficiation plants. So we don't have the same grades as some of the hard rocks, but we don't have the same capital and operating costs as some of those hard rocks either. The geophysics is going to obviously tell us a lot of the areas to go target, the depth and thickness across all of our granted tenements. And we've got a real big potential here, not just for tens or millions of tonnes, it's hundreds of millions of tonnes. If you look over 30 by 60 kilometre target areas and narrowing those down. And we saw a cross section there of 30 kilometres worth of intersection there. And our close proximity to an existing port that's already shipping out iron ore, shipping out wheat grain, and also an existing town with roads gives us a big tick in the box there, so low capital. And finally, green rare earth potential using wind turbines, solar panels and other things. So that's the presentation in 10 minutes.
Very well done, Brett. Thank you so much for that. We've had a couple of questions come through, so let me get into them. And I know you have mentioned this, you do have quite a large project as it stands. And I know that there's quite a few companies that are coming on and acquiring some of the adjoining land, but is there an opportunity for you to sort of increase the tenement package that you have?
There's always an opportunity. I think the question is, why would you do it if you've already got a big package and the grades that we've already seen there? So yes, there's an opportunity, but I think we'll find that we've got a couple of 100 million tonnes, and that's my, you can look at that on the ASX, 250 million tonnes at 800 plus ppm is one of my goals to reach. So at the moment, I think we'll just focus on our knitting at the moment.
And just a bit of a forward sort of looking question, but what excites you most about the project?
Look, rare earths is a bit of a boom, so it's a bit of a laggard behind the lithium story. So lithium obviously needs to go into all these, it's a bit of white gold at the moment, but into all this decarbonisation side of things. So for us, you need these high magnetic rare earth magnets that then drive the efficiencies of these electric vehicles to go a lot further on the road. So I've just bought myself a Tesla as well. So I'm going to get 400 plus kilometres out of it based on having these rare earth magnets in there.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for the update. And I look forward to seeing the drill results that are coming out next week.
Beautiful. And they'll be progressive over probably a month's time. So we'll get our initial results, and then obviously over the next 3 or 4 weeks will be the full results coming out.
Brilliant. Well, I would encourage webinar attendees to reach out via the contact details on the bottom of the ASX releases if they've got any further questions. But thanks so much for your time.